Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are tackling a beast of a book, one of the most influential personal development guides ever written, Tony Robbins' Awaken the Giant Within. We're going to boil this massive classic down to its core, actionable principles for you.
So the book kicks off with this really powerful idea from Benjamin Disraeli, and it's basically the foundation for everything else. Having a clear, definite purpose gives you an almost irresistible power. It's the starting line.
And that leads right into Robbins' main point, his central argument. It's not your circumstances, it's not your past, it's not the conditions around you that shape your destiny, it's your decisions. He says your entire life can pivot the very moment you make a brand new, truly committed decision.
So here's how we're going to break this down. We'll start with the sheer power of making a decision. Then we'll get into what really motivates us. We'll grab some practical tools for change, then talk about designing your future, and we'll wrap it all up with a challenge.
Okay, let's jump right in. Part 1, the power of decision. This is all about realizing you're in the director's chair of your own life, not just reading lines somebody else wrote. Robbins has this great name for how most people go through life. He calls it the Niagara Syndrome. You know, you're just kind of drifting down the river, reacting to whatever rocks pop up, getting tossed around by the current. The alternative, decide where you want to go, your destination, and start paddling deliberately in that direction.
So what even is a true decision? Well, it's not just saying, I'd like to lose some weight. No way. A real decision, according to Robbins, means you cut off any other possibility. Think about Mahatma Gandhi deciding to free India, or Ed Roberts, paralyzed from the neck down, deciding to fight for the rights of the disabled. He's a huge reason we have things like wheelchair ramps today. That is commitment.
Okay, so if making decisions is like grabbing the steering wheel, what's the engine? What actually makes us do the things we do? Well, it all comes down to two very primal forces that are pulling the strings on every choice you make.
Literally, every single thing you do, from procrastinating to pushing through a tough workout, is driven by your brain's deep biological need to avoid pain and gain pleasure. Robbins calls the link your brain makes between something and that feeling a neuroassociation. And believe me, it's running the show, whether you know it or not.
Now here's the cool part. You can take control of this. The secret to change is to consciously link massive gut-level pain to the behaviors you want to get rid of, and link incredible, overwhelming pleasure to the new habits you want to build. The key is to make not changing more painful than the process of changing.
Just imagine these two questions running like background software in your mind 24/7. Is this going to lead to pain or pleasure? And what's the fastest way I can feel good right now? Your unconscious answers to these questions are dictating your actions every single day.
All right, so knowing the why behind our actions is huge, but the real magic is in the how. This next section is the practical, hands-on toolkit Robbins gives us to make change happen fast and make it stick. Robbins uses this awesome metaphor for beliefs. A belief is really just a feeling of certainty, right? So think of an idea as a wobbly tabletop. Every time you have an experience that supports that idea, a reference, as he calls it, you add a leg to the table. Enough legs, and that tabletop becomes a solid, unshakable conviction.
So, to systematically build those new beliefs, Robbins created a process he calls neuroassociative conditioning, or NAC. It's the step-by-step recipe for consciously rewiring those pain and pleasure connections we've been talking about.
And here are the steps. First, you need leverage, a powerful emotional reason to change. Second, you got to interrupt the old pattern as it's happening. Just scramble the signal. Third, you install a new, better replacement. And finally, you condition it, you rehearse it with emotion over and over until it's as automatic as tying your shoe. Now, when it comes to interrupting a pattern, he says you have to shock your nervous system. You can't be subtle. His example is pretty extreme, but it makes the point. If you're an overeater, the next time you're about to binge, stand up in the restaurant and just scream, "Pig." The sheer embarrassment, that massive social pain, would shatter that pattern for good.
So once you have the tools to change just about anything, the whole game shifts. You're not just putting out fires anymore. You become the architect, proactively designing the life you actually want to live.
A core philosophy for this is what Robbins calls CANI, constant and never-ending improvement. He argues that real security doesn't come from a paycheck or a savings account, it comes from the deep-down certainty that you are becoming a better, more capable person every single day. And this doesn't mean you have to make giant leaps. He tells this fantastic story about the basketball coach Pat Riley. After his team, the Lakers, lost a championship, he didn't ask them to reinvent themselves. He just asked each player to improve by a tiny, manageable 1% in 5 key areas of the game. The result was staggering. That tiny 1% goal had a massive ripple effect. Most players improved by at least 5%, and some by as much as 50%. The compounding effect of those small, daily gains led to their easiest championship win ever. That's Can I in action.
But ultimately, the most powerful force shaping your life is your identity. Who do you believe you are at your core? If you define yourself as a victim, you'll act like one. If you define yourself as a loving person, you'll find ways to be loving. Your identity creates the rules you live by, so you've got to choose it consciously.
Finally, after you've learned how to master your own inner world, the book ends with a challenge. To take these tools and this power and use them to contribute to something bigger than yourself.
The final chapters really echo this sentiment from the actor Michael Landon. It's a call for urgency. It's a reminder that this life is not a dress rehearsal. The time to live fully, to do the things you want to do, is right now.
You know, the goal isn't to reach some state of perfection where you have no problems. It's about embracing the whole messy, beautiful, challenging human experience. It's about living with passion, caring deeply, and engaging fully with your life. So we end with the question that the entire book is really asking you. It's not about what you're going to do next week or next year. It's about right now. What one single, committed decision will you make today to begin awakening the giant within you?